Let's take a look at my new sock pattern called the Fir Rib Socks. The Fir Rib Socks are this month's sock pattern for the Westknits Year of Socks ebook. If you're signed up for that ebook, you should have this new sock pattern in your Ravelry library update or via email, and it uses the dip stitch technique. That same fir rib dip stitch that I used in the Brie Ornate shawl and the Brie Ornate sweater. Now we have this beautiful texture with the ribbed columns. I loved knitting these socks. I knit these on my last trip over to visit my family in the States, and it's such a good travel project. I've just really fully embraced that whole sock knitting lifestyle by always having a sock project in my bag at all times, because it's not about the speed that you knit, it's just every little row adds up. When you're waiting in line, at the airport, sitting in the car, you can always sneak in an extra round, and it just all adds up to these beautiful, fun travel socks. So the fir rib dip stitch is one of those techniques where you're adding extra yarn, you're dipping down your needle, picking up a strand of yarn and adding it to the front of the fabric, so it creates a really plush texture that you can really see with the ribbing. The pearls create those valleys, and those stockinette dip stitches make a crisp, pronounced little 3D effect to the fabric. And I just love how they look in this neutral speckled colorway. These two colors are from Mominoki yarn. I used a speckled color called, this was Mosvald, with one of their beautiful green solid yarns. So it's a really light sandy neutral Mosvald, and it has these grassy green streaks and kind of a speckle technique, but it's a bit more of a streaky speckle. So it's not a sharp pixelated dot, it's these little streaks of color that just add a little bit of a glow, a little bit of dimension, and they just are highlighted with those fun dip stitch strands. I just love that detail because it's always a surprise where they're going to happen in the sock, but you'll get that all over splattered little effect. And there's some dark splashes as well in the Mosvald colorway. And let's look at some other combos that we can do. You're going to need just one skein of the main color, and then one skein is plenty for the contrast cuff, heel, and toe. These are knit top down, so you can customize the length as you play with your color pops. It would be fun with mini skeins, doing a different color for each of these sections. But just one skein for the main color. And you can choose, I believe there's 5 sizes in this pattern. This is size 3, but there's lots of different circumferences, and every circumference size is customizable with the length. So you could knit a shorter ankle, or you could knit your foot longer if you have a longer foot, or shorter. So really easy to customize, and you just need one main color and one contrast. So something like this could really be beautiful. I would maybe do this as the main color, just because I think this would show off those fir rib dip stitches a little bit better, and then the dark cuff, heel, and toe. This is called Teal Blast. It's our custom teal colorway from last year's sock along. It's really saturated and glowing, and this is the Ocean colorway. It's a really deep blue, but has these shadowy dark moments to it, and some highlights as well. So that's what I love about Mominoki's yarns. Even the solid colors, they're not just flat solid, they all have this tonal, beautiful quality to them that shows off the little highlights in the stitches. So even this orange called Orange Cosmos, it has this shadowy quality to it, which is just so beautiful and dimensional. This is Pistachio. Maybe I'd mix that with this gray. This one's similar to the Mosvald colorway. That's definitely more of a warm sandy neutral, and this is more of a cold concrete neutral called Starry Night. It has golden streaks and those same charcoal streaks of color. Really pretty. This would be good with a gold color pop too, or like an orange, ooh, with an orange, or that Orange Cosmos. Oh, that would be really nice too. So I think I'd use this as the main color to really show off those special streaks of color, and then the color pop for the cuff, heel, and toe. There's lots of neutrals, lots of pinky purples. Mominoki has a whole rainbow of semi-solids. So something like this would be really pastel-y and pretty. This is the lavender colorway. this semi-solid, and this is Flamingo. It's a really dusty, pale powder pink, but that would be good, or I might go a little more graphic. High contrast. I think this is the main color, and then a dark. This is the chestnut. It's a really warm golden brown. So lots of fun color options to play with from Mominoki. So semi-solids are really going to show off that texture, or a little light sprinkle. If you go with these more variegated yarns, those can look really fun too. It's going to disguise the texture a little bit. Oh, I did this version. This is with Twisted Ambitions yarn, this like variegated speckle. This is what the sock is going to look like with a more busy, variegated hand-dyed yarn. You still get to see that texture thanks to the purl columns, but it's not quite as popping out as a semi-solid or that light sprinkle, but it just depends on what effect you want. With the variegated yarns, the dip stitches do look really great because when you're doing a dip stitch, you're making a longer strand of yarn. You get these longer stitches than a normal stitch. So do you see those normal stitches at the cuff? They're really, really tiny. The dip stitches are about 2 or 3 times longer as a normal stitch. So you're gonna really see those variegated streaks of color with those variegated yarn choices. So those are yarns that are going to look something like this, the crazy yarns. So one of those, and then mix it, I think, with a solid pop. So this, maybe with the orange, or even the dark. This could be cool, a really dark and dramatic contrast cuff, and then go have a party with your dip stitches with those speckled variegated yarns. So lots of fun. I hope you love this month's sock pattern. It was one of my favorite ones as I was knitting it. I knew I wanted to include it in this year's sock ebook for the Westknits Year of Socks. The patterns just get better and better throughout the year. So we've got dip stitches now, we have some cables from the ebook, we did some lace and some fun stripes. So let's knit some dip stitches for our toes and have some fun with those splashy yarns.